Welcome to Music in the Making. We are three high school and junior high music teachers from West Central Illinois. Each week we will talk about our experiences in the classroom, community, and personal lives too. We're no experts by any means, but any help we can provide to our audience of music friends is why we pursue this new venture. Please welcome your hosts, Lisa Hallen, Art Martinez, and Kevin Ferry. Okay, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Music in the Making. So sorry for the delay. We had an organizational contest last week, and we had like a bunch of stuff like just happen. It was awesome. Today we actually it's going to be myself and Mrs. Martinez. Mr. Ferry had a track meet he couldn't miss, and Miss Hallen is currently with her fiance, if I'm not mistaken. So, busy times for everyone, but that's okay. We will do an organizational recap most likely next week, and it's some exciting news all about that, because that was a great 2 days. Okay, so Mrs. Martinez, I have her with me today because I think the topic that I think was really, really cool, and definitely from her perspective, is what it's like to be a first-year teacher. I think genuinely for me, a first-year teacher was like, oh my gosh, it's very weird for me to like be in my own classroom, have my own stuff. I get to sort of make the rules, which is, kind of can be a little uncomfortable, because if you're someone who's been so used to people telling you how to do things, well, now that you finally have an opportunity to do it yourself, it can be a little scary, depending on your scenario. For me, my first year was definitely enjoyable. Definitely some honeymoon stage type things that went right and lots of mistakes made, but by year two, I definitely felt more comfortable. But enough about my first-year experience. Let's hear from Mrs. Martinez. So, to recap briefly, last episode we talked about how she finished her doctorate in trumpet performance at UNL. Go Big Red, because if I didn't say that, Kevin would be very mad. Starting from there, or actually you mentioned earlier, you said that your educational career started earlier, or music education career, that idea started earlier. Can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I was performance track all the way through my degrees, and during that time, especially during my undergrad, I felt a little lost in my degree path. I knew I wanted to do music, and a lot of it for me was just getting through my stage fright and anxiety. I have had very severe stage anxiety, especially when I was in my undergrad, and there were so many times where I was just like, I'm gonna do this instead of music, but I knew that I never would be happy if I didn't have music in my life and if I didn't do music. So I'm glad that I stuck it out with performance, but my biggest regret would probably be not having had any more diversity in my pedigree in terms of what I got my degrees in. So since I was performance for my bachelor's, master's, and doctorate, that would kind of imply that I'm going to probably teach music at the collegiate level or gig or whatever, which I have done, and I enjoy both of those things. But during my gap year after my doctorate, and then before starting this job, I was a long-term sub at Macomb, and really enjoyed that experience. Was starting to kind of get more and more intrigued about getting into music ed. It had always been kind of in the back of my mind about maybe going back to do music ed. So I started doing some digging, and sure enough, Western WIU has a program called the MAT, Masters of Arts in Teaching, I believe it's what it stands for. And they did not have a music ed program when I started, but I got to talking with some professors, and they had said there was a huge demand. So I'm glad I'm not alone in that. Lots of people, lots of musicians had gone to school for same as me, And, we could get into the whole reason of, why so many people are quitting teaching in general, which includes collegiate teaching, but we won't go down that rabbit hole today. But, if you know, you know. So, I went ahead, they opened the program, and I applied, got in, and I've been taking classes ever since. And
very cool. Yeah. So to kind of elaborate a little bit on this program, Mrs. Martinez has her degree in performance. So, that can mean obviously a lot of things, generally speaking, but essentially, like, she has taken high-level courses in history, music history, and theory and
history,
teaching, how to even teach collegiately, because there actually is like there's actually classes for how you teach college students, believe it or not. But this current career path or degree path that she's taking allows her to teach at the public level. Despite her doctorate, some states don't recognize that as being a public school teacher. And the reason for that is, like, there are just some classes that we teachers must take in order to become more associated with the public school, because collegiate teaching is just a totally different kind of area. She is needing some extra courses in order to be certified, is what we'd say, to have a certificate in teaching.
And it was such a no-brainer, really, for me, because either I would have gone back to get a full, undergrad degree, which would have taken 4 years, which I was not prepared to do. I had already done 9 years of schooling, not about to go back for that. But then when this MAT program opened up, it's literally I'm taking the supplemental courses I need to have that K through 12 certification. So really, it was a no-brainer when it came to doing this, because it's only going to take me, I'm going to actually be done with my coursework in a year and a half.
Yeah, which is great, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, again, she's taking a whole 4-year course for an undergraduate music degree, and because she's taken already these upper level classes, we're kind of boiling it down to the very essentials of what she would need. Yep. So far, what have you taken? What was last semester?
Okay, so I'm taking, obviously, a lot of tech classes in the form of lessons. So I've been doing clarinet, saxophone, trombone, and euphonium lessons. And then I took a class called K through 8 Music Methods, which was essentially, learning about teaching methods. And then I took another course in assessments, which was really useful. This semester I'm doing, like I said, lessons, and then I did an ed law class, which was very interesting, just about the ethics of teaching. And then, what was the other one? It's essentially, again, more teaching methods, I feel like. So a lot about teaching methods. It's a ton about that. I still have to do a little bit. Some of it had to do with child psychology a little bit, but there's a couple of other courses coming up that I'm taking over the summer that are a little bit more into that area.
Right. Yeah, and to reiterate a little bit, or to clarify even further, certification is just a document that allows teachers to teach in a school, anywhere in the state that they get their degrees from. And because that this degree covers kindergarten through 12th grade, things like assessments and things are so unique to each grade level. We can't expect a kindergarten class that meets maybe 15-20 minutes a day to take a full-fledged final exam that we would expect a high schooler to take. Because of that, we have to really diversify and learn as teachers to teach these different grade levels. Because I teach both high school and junior high in my current job, I have to keep in mind, my expectations for both grade levels can be the same. However, the material maybe cannot be the same because one is a more developing ensemble and the other one is, in a way, a developing ensemble, but is more advanced because the student is able to retain and or catch able to retain and also just understand information better. Both the junior high and the high school are similar in ways, but with instrumentation and music can even be somewhat similar. But the way that we assess or how we test our students to make sure that they are learning is it can be definitely unique to each ensemble depending on what they know. So it's really exciting to see Kat here take some different instruments. If anything, I'm kind of jealous that she's kind of using individual lessons as her form of learning instruments. I mean, when I did my undergrad at WIU, I was in a room with 20 other people learning how to put together a saxophone or learning how to play a clarinet with a mouthpiece.
I've been in the shoes of teaching tech classes during my doctorate, and then I did during, in a couple of college settings too. So it's very different when, you're stepping back from teaching them and then actually participating in them. But yeah, definitely the one-on-one is very nice. It's great to expedite the process, but also it's great to have that attention one-on-one each week to see how you can improve more and more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's really cool what you're doing. So we're both very thankful WIU has this product, and if you're a person or someone who is in that same boat where it's they are a musician and maybe they did the same thing that Dr. and Mrs. has done, you put all your time and effort into being a performer, which is amazing. We love that. Of course, we want that for everyone. Mm-hmm. But you just are wanting to scratch that itch of, I want to really spread my knowledge of music and love of it to an even wider audience. This could be a program for you. So please consider doing some research. And reach out to the podcast on the email if you have any questions specifically for myself or Mrs. Martinez. And I think it's a really cool thing.
I will add, it's so important as musicians to diversify. Make sure you are, able to perform, obviously, if that's what you want to do. But also, you need to be able to teach, or do different things if something should fall through. You just never know. The economy right now is a little questionable at times, and jobs are a little questionable in terms of security. So if that's something that you're definitely on the fence about, my advice is to always make yourself as marketable as you can.
Mm-hmm. Yep, good advice. I like it. All right, so moving on from the program itself, let's talk about your job. So what is your current job description, or how would you describe it in your own words?
I teach K through 8 music, so kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade.
3rd grade. So, again, diversifying assessments, because she cannot be teaching, the same exact way for kindergarten as she can 3rd grade. However, that does not mean that she is not teaching very similar concepts. It all depends on the rate. So okay, so take us through a normal week a little bit. So how does your job work for from your point of view? Describe your job.
Okay, so I'm in 2 different buildings on Mondays. Monday and Wednesday I'm at the primary school. I'll just say that. And then Tuesday, Thursday, Friday I'm here at the early childhood school. And so on those Monday, Wednesdays, I see 2nd and 3rd grade. I see 7 classes one day. I see a different batch of 7 classes on Wednesday. And then Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, I see my littles, 20 minutes per class, 3 times a week. So that means I have 14 classes a day on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So it's very in and out. It's my door is a revolving door, essentially. So, and you can hear in my voice is tired today. I've been a little sick, so sorry about that. But anyway, yeah, so I see my kids. I don't like always that I only see my kids at the other school once a week, but we're maybe looking into a different schedule with that, so we'll see. But we tend to just change things up depending on what the goal is for that part of the curriculum. So Right now, we've just been finishing up learning about 16th notes and half notes and how to count them in second, third grade. And then also we are finishing up reading notes on our treble clef. So my kids, the other day, I was so proud of them. We did a game called Trash Get Ball. If you're a teacher, you know. So it's essentially where it's basketball and they have to answer a question, and if they get it right, they get to shoot something into like a ball. I have a ball of tape that they shoot into a basket. And so our little assessment is a game called Trash Get Ball. So they have to go up. One person from each team has to go up and they tell me what note they see on the treble clef. And then if they get it right, they get to shoot a basket. And it was the best assessment tool I've ever used for second, third grade. 10 out of 10 would recommend forever. They did so good with it. Like, I was so impressed with what they remembered. So, yeah, stuff like that. And then with my littles, kindergarten's definitely a different ball game. Assessments are more so, can you hold an instrument without stepping on it, breaking it, throwing it, etc., hitting your neighbor with it? Can you keep a steady beat? Things like that. And then with first grade, way more expectations, obviously, as they get older. So same expectations as kindergarten, if not way more. So they are learning rhythms in first grade. They know their ta and tt and sh, their rests. So they know how to read those rhythms. And so by the time they get to older grades, they start learning a lot more complex rhythms. They should know most of the names of musical instruments by now. And then just, dynamics, largo, presto, we've gone over a lot this year.
All right. Wow. So, it's quite a lot of topic.
I feel like I went off topic.
It's okay. I mean, we were going to cover some
This is
of
what
things.
you get when you get a K3 general music teacher at the end of the week, at the end of the day on Friday.
I will say this, to circle back just a little bit. One of the things I think a first-year teacher maybe has questions about, or has to experience is maybe two things. One, like setting up a classroom, and also because you said 14 classes a day in one time. How do you set up your classroom? And honestly, how do you remember all those names? Because I think for someone who only sees students maybe every other day, like you mentioned, it might be a little tough. So do you have any tips and tricks, or how you remembered names? So maybe let's just start with that.
Okay, so that's been my Achilles heel, personally. But I just had to buckle down, and just tell myself, you have to learn this many names a week. And so I made it my goal, for each school. There were always maybe a handful in each room that I was not sure. I was on the fence. I could remember maybe a little bit, but not consistent. So I gave myself about 5 to 10 names per school each week, and just kind of started looking over seating charts, really, or not. I don't have seating charts, but rosters. And just, I would check mark the ones that I knew, and then I would kind of circle the ones that I was your name, your name. It's you.
Yeah.
So
it usually doesn't help when their roster picture is nothing close to what they look like
or there's
now.
just nothing there.
Right. Or they're new to the district. They have they don't have information yet.
Or they go by a nickname. So when you say their name, they're so I've got several Sophias, and if I say Sophia, they're Sophia? Don't you mean Sophie? And I'm oh yeah, so sorry. And so I have to make sure I write those down all the time, because I'm just or Abigail likes to go by Abby or whatever. Penelope likes to go by Poppy or things like that. So there's lots of different nicknames that they like. So yeah, I just had to buckle down and kind of do it that way. I really don't have any tips for you. you can ask homeroom teachers to send them down with name tags, but again, it's tricky with that. You can always do a seating chart. For me, I like flexible seating, especially since I only see my primary school kids once a week. They don't remember where they're going to sit every time. I tried it for a couple weeks and they were just like, where do I sit? And we end up wasting way more time with seating charts than we would just like saying, okay, have a seat somewhere. So here at the Early Childhood Center, they have dots on the floor that they sit on. And honestly, since I see these kids, I see the same batch of kids Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. I know these kids' names like the back of my hand. So, yeah, it was mostly just remembering the primary school kids, honestly, since I see them once a week. So, yeah, building that relationship is really important to me, especially I monitor recess on those days. So, like, I am out there playing with them. I'm out there pushing them on the swings or whatever, like, trying to get to know them more and build that relationship. So,
yeah, I think it's a common thing is that, once you start to get to know the kids' hobbies and out school life, like you start to associate that name. Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm horrible with names.
I am too.
You know me.
I will literally be like, what's your name again? And they'll tell me, and then I won't listen. Or like my ears are like, because I'm so focused on being like, wow, Kat, you're so rude. You didn't even ask them what their name was. And then I tell myself later, I'm like, oh my gosh, Kat, you're so rude. You don't even remember what their name was.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that scene from The Office when he's like, where like Michael's like, he's like, I'm going to remember your name by like brown shoes, large guy, no hair.
Yeah,
like that's, I feel like that's kind of how I start out, because it's like I'm just so bad with names. But when I associate something, like a hobby or like, or nickname maybe even with that person, I get so much better and so much. So I think that's a common thing that a lot of teachers, like in general, are bad about. But I mean, I think, having a roster, sticking to it, finding ways, I think excuses to use their name.
Yes.
Like in a positive way too. Like not calling them out. Granted, those people who you call on more so, you'll definitely learn their names. Oh my gosh,
yes. That was definitely the case for me.
But I think generally speaking, just coming up with something, an excuse to use their name in a positive way will help you as well. Okay, so now this the second part of that question is, every teacher has their classroom different. So you stepping in as a first-year teacher, but also just as a new teacher in general, coming into a new room, what were some of the things that you decided to change or move or put up that, to make it your own?
Honestly, the primary school, I share that with the art teacher. So all I did was really put up some bulletin boards on the outside of the classroom, and then inside the classroom I hung up some posters and things like that, fun, colorful things, make it kind of cheerful. And then he hangs up artwork and stuff. So, I mean, our room's pretty decorated. Here at the Early Childhood, I ended up hanging up my boom whackers with little, like, double-sided, what is that stuff called? Velcro. Thank you. And then I have a composer of the month, which I've been horrible at keeping up with. It's a bulletin board. It's really cute, too. But Mozart's been up there for like 3 months now.
As it should be.
More. But anyway, my room here at Lincoln is way more colorful, which I love. I'm all about it. And the kids really like it, too. So the dots on the floor are all different colors. My bulletin board is very colorful. So, yeah, I mean, honestly, it was just me adding little personal touches. It wasn't anything crazy. But, I mean, if you walk into a room where you're just like, oh, my gosh, I'd like to do this and this. Like, I had some great big ideas for my classroom, and then I ended up realizing that's not very realistic, and that's not going to work out with this setup. So I had to kind of be flexible and always ask permission, so you don't have to ask for forgiveness later. So like I couldn't bring in certain things that I wanted to, which is fine, obviously. So because they just, certain things are not allowed or whatever. So always make sure, check with your building administrator before you start hauling stuff in. But yeah, I mean, organization is key with music. So having lots of drawers, lots of space to store things. I keep a like bed sheet over one of my shelves behind me, which has a lot of like handheld instruments on it. Just it's kind of like an out of sight, out of mind thing, because a lot of my kindergartners were very like unruly at first, and so we'd run in and we'd grab things, and we know now not to do that, obviously, but yeah, it's that first couple months where you got to start training them, you know, about like how do you come into a classroom, what are your expectations. So yeah, just little tips and tricks like that, out of sight, out of mind. They won't go reaching for the maracas.
Yeah,
or
we
whatever.
can definitely spend like a whole year on classroom management if we really want to, but not today. Okay, so you kind of mentioned some topics you've covered already this year.
Yeah.
Maybe to mention just a couple other ones. The trash cabal thing is a big hit. Boomwhackers. What would you say like your next biggest, or like maybe like besides those, what is your biggest like hit with the students this year?
Honestly, I did the book Beethoven's Wig with my first and kindergartners. They have not forgotten about it. We did it probably the third week of school. And if you haven't done like or seen Beethoven's Wig, there's a video on YouTube. It's actually hilarious. And there's a book. And so that kind of introduced them to Beethoven's Fifth, which everybody's heard da 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 da. Like, you know that theme when you hear it. And so all the kids were like, oh my gosh. When we learned about Beethoven, then we, did some rhythm stuff with Beethoven 5, and it was super fun. So, but even to this day, they'll come in and they'll be like, Beethoven's wig is very big. It's super fun.
That's awesome.
Anyway, that was a big hit. I get super passionate and excited about these things. We're going to do Carnival of the Animals soon. Super excited about that. Yes. Honestly, we've played so many games that the kids love. There was one called Witch, which is just a little song that we did, and I bought like a little witch's hat, and it was kind of like a play chase game kind of thing. Again, this is for the littles, but they just love the idea of like being the little witch, and like this was during Halloween time. But doing little things like that. And then over with my primary school kids, we love playing bingo for assessments. So we play bingo a lot. And honestly, they've become so good at rhythms. I do rhythm bingo where I play something and then they have to mark it off on their bingo boards. So we were doing 16th note bingo the other day, and I was like going tiki 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 ti ti ta with like rhythm sticks or whatever, and they had to find it on their board. I was blown away with how good they were with listening and helping each other out and things like that. So we do stuff like that all the time. But yeah, those are probably some of my favorite things that we've done. It's so like, I guess as a music teacher, there are unlimited ideas that you can do in your classroom. And I have probably enough ideas to fill up lesson plans for like 3 years of doing something different every single day. But obviously we do a lot of reviews of things we've done before because that's good for the kids to do that. So yeah, those are just a few. I mean, one other one, I think some of my favorite lessons are with the littles, just because it's so much fun to come up with dances and games and songs. One of them that they love to do is the 5 green and speckled frogs. And so we did that the other day. So 5 green and speckled frogs sat on a speckled log, eating the most delicious bugs. Yum, yum. One jumped into the pool where it was nice and cool. Now there are 4 green speckled frogs. Glug, glug. So we do that, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So it's a counting game, so it's great for them. And I had bought these little jumping frogs for them to jump around the room with. So they loved that. And just dumb little toys like that will keep them entertained for so long. So yeah, it's those little things like that where I'm not sure how it's going to go, they end up being some of the most successful lessons that I do all year.
Cool. So, well, you kind of just mentioned that you have tons of ideas for next year.
Yes.
Maybe what are your maybe top 2 or 3 that you're most excited to do next year now that you've discovered it? Or another way to say it is, because you had so much success with certain ones, how would you do it better?
Well, I mean, something I want to implement more is folk dancing. The room that I have at one building is not the best space for dancing, like folk dancing. And so I want to try to figure out ways to incorporate more of that. Gosh, honestly, being more consistent with behavioral expectations is probably what I would say. So, like, if I say I'm gonna take something away, I need to actually take it away. Like, I tend to be pretty lenient with my kids sometimes, and I don't, they'll test me with instruments and things like that. And obviously, if they really are being defiant, I will take their instrument away, but other times I don't. And I think just like when I threaten to, take the boom whacker away, I need to just take it away for a minute, let them think about it, and then come back, because I've been doing that more towards the end of the year, and I'm like, gosh, if I would have done this at the beginning, we probably wouldn't have to do it now. Mm-hmm. So essentially being better with behavior management in that regard. And then I'm trying to think what else, like names, obviously. Good thing is the only names I have to know for next year are the new kindergartners, so I'm going to obviously remember everybody else. But yeah, the new kindergartners will be the new names, but learning them quicker than I did this year will be my goal for sure.
Okay. All right. With those things and maybe plus other items on your list, do you feel like, generally speaking, though, you've gotten stronger as an educator this year?
Oh my gosh, yes.
In what ways?
Behavior management was my number one. Like, I think when you've never taught at the public school level, you just don't know what to expect. And yeah, there's a lot of diverse behaviors. And just learning to understand these kids, where they come from, some of the backgrounds, like some of the things they've gone through, and then just like, what we're expecting of them versus maybe what they're expected to do at home are sometimes two totally different things. So giving yourself grace and giving kids grace is definitely something I've learned to do. My patience, I want to say, has gotten better. You're married to me, so maybe it hasn't. I don't know.
I mean, you know me, I'm pretty patient.
I'm very impatient. I'm one of the most impatient people I know. And so that has definitely gotten better. I'd say my teacher voice has gotten better. Can I say that? I feel like the first several months, I just am not used to yelling all the time. And so my voice would get so tired. And like I said, right now it's tired because I've been fighting off this like congestion and cough. But like it's gotten so much stronger, and I'm really excited about that. Even though Trisha said, Miss Trisha, if you're listening, she said my voice is still really soft, so I'm working on it. Anyway, yeah, those are some things that have definitely improved. My organization has improved, so yeah.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're gonna end it here. So thank you, Dr. and Mrs. Martinez. Appreciate your time today.
Thanks.
But I'm actually going to end it really quick with this question. And this question I want specifically to go out to all the block students, student teachers, and teachers who are in your first year right now. If at any point this year, or previously, or whatnot, the question is, what piece of advice would you say is best for teaching today? I think because students are evolving every day, there's always just something that's new, something that they are exposed to that kind of that when they bring it into the classroom, it can be a little difficult. I want you to think about what piece of advice you would say is best for a first-year teacher or a block student or a student teacher. Maybe a piece of advice that was given to you by another teacher or another friend or a family member. If you wouldn't mind sharing, you can email your response to that question to musicinthemakingpod@gmail.com, and we'd love to hear what some of the advice you have to say, so that maybe in the next episode we can share that with a lot of others who may be having that same question or needing a little bit of extra guidance. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for listening today. Remember to follow us. We are both on Spotify and Apple Music.
And leave a 5-star rating.
Always a 5-star rating. We appreciate it. It just helps our community grow. And again, we're just trying to spread the good word of music to everyone and trying to help people where we can. So thank you so much. We hope that you enjoyed today's episode. And for Kevin Ferry, wherever you are, girl, bye.